Hey everyone, Phreak here. Welcome to episode 3 of the North American LCS Dungeons & Dragons campaign recap. I'm going to run out of episodes very quickly. I am recapping things that happened weeks and months ago, but I'm also tending to do about 2 sessions at a time in these recaps because they make sense as far as the story is constructed. So very quickly, I will run out of things to say, and there might be breaks in between them if we don't get to a good stopping point at any of the given sessions. Either way, up to this point, the band of 7 adventurers you can see below my face had cleaned up the town of Nightstone and had come to realize, as we show you what Nightstone looks like, it's beautiful. They had come to realize that the villagers had all gone missing. There were 4 guards stranded at this keep down here who pointed them the way of the dripping caves just a mile to the northwest and said, hey, you should rescue them. They all went there, or at least bring them back. There's no necessary need to rescue them, but maybe you want to bring them back. And they go, okay, fair enough. They happen across some elves who they had helped out, kind of, and they told them there were multiple entrances to the dripping caves. The main entrance was the cave to the general cave entrance to the south, but there is a route in from the east, a river from the west, and a chimney right around here. And as the adventurers came forward, 2 of them took 2 of the guards and found this chimney, and they rappelled down the chimney on some rope, and coming in right here came face to face with a goblin whose name was Snigbat. And Snigbat, shrill, high-pitched, sort of nasally goblin voice that she had, said, "Hi, I'm Snigbat." Vol, the Wood Elf Ranger down at the bottom there, sort of parlayed with her for a little bit and figured out that she did not like working for Boss Hark anymore. Hark is kind of an annoying boss. She's been stuck on chimney duty for far too long. It's a very boring post. She thinks that she could make a better boss, and that if they helped her overthrow Boss Hark, then she would let the villagers go. The villagers are being held captive, by the way, so you help her out, and yeah, you know, she'll let everyone go, and she'll take over the cavern. They go, okay, well, that sounds fine. That sounds like not having to kill everything. She also lets slip, somewhat an accident, that there are some ogres also living in the cave that she does not have any control over, but that Boss Hark does. Oops. She let that one out, and then so Val's like, okay, well, I'm going to go confer with everyone else, and I don't trust you to not snitch on us, so I'm going to bring you with us. And so they bring her up with the rope. They leave her post unguarded, and the 5 of them, 2 adventurers, 2 guards, and Snigbat is strapped to the back of one of the adventurers, walk back to town. And they say, hey, we found a goblin, look. She wants to help us take over the cave. If we overthrow the boss, she'll let the civilians go. They're being held captive. Okay, that sounds fine. Sure, let's do that. And so they all decide, yes, we'll adventure to the dripping caves. We will all come down the chimney. But hey, before we do that, give us the lay of the land. What exactly are the caves like? And so they draw a rudimentary map. There are basically 4 main components: top left, top right, bottom right, northeast, northwest, etc. No one goes to the southeast anymore. She doesn't know why, but they don't go there anymore. We don't go to Ravenholm. The civilians are held in the northeast. The cave edge is, of course, in the far south. Boss Hark is in the northwest, which is right by where the chimney is. Fair enough. Cool, let's go over there. In the southwest is basically nothing notable from Snigbat. Now, during all of this, by the way, Vol and his character, or his player, I should say, really, makes a point to really never call Snigbat by the right name. As a fun character trait, chooses to get her name wrong all the time, to which she keeps replying, Snigbat, it's Snigbat, over and over and over again, and much to the enjoyment of the rest of the table, Vol just keeps not necessarily mocking her. He doesn't say it in a negative way, but just, you know, treats her as a sentient being, you know, that is capable of holding conversation, but continually gets her name wrong. Okay, fine. Gets a little annoyed about it, but she doesn't stop it. Doesn't stop it. And so the party makes their way up this way and towards Boss Hark's cave. Now, this is a very tight squeeze, by the way. These little edge parts of the cavern are maybe only about 5 feet wide, so everyone's kind of squeezing by each other. I mean, thankfully, Brother Olahan is a halfling, and Modella is a gnome, so they have a little bit easier time at this one, kind of getting between people's legs and whatnot, but it's a bit difficult. They also know that, as Snigbat had told them, most of the goblin guards and the ogres are all sitting around the central area. The dark gray are rocks, the light gray are cliffs. Little ledges up, basically. And blue is water, but gross water, which is why it's kind of this dingy grayish blue. Whatever. She doesn't describe all that, but that's the general layout of the line, just so you guys can know. So they make their way up, and wow, we're here, hello, and suddenly a bunch of humanoids, not goblinoids, show up in Boss Hark's area. And so Boss Hark's chilling here, and he's got like half a dozen pet rats, and he's got a couple of bodyguards. And there's like 5 or 6 adventurers. They brought 3 of the living, or I think there's down to 2 living guards at this point. They brought the 2 living guards with them as well. Snigbat's chilling around here, and they've got a standoff. And they say, hey, hello. And he sees Snigbat in tow and sort of clues in what's going on. Like, oh, Snigbat, you're so treacherous. But essentially, sort of sees a bunch of well-equipped adventurers. And Boss Hark says, well, look, I'm not unreasonable. You give me, I don't know, let's say 5 gold a head, and you can have your civilians back. Now, he would have gone for as low as 1, don't get me wrong, but he's a businessman. He starts high. I'll give you a solid 5 gold a head if, you know, you'll get completely safe passage. I'll escort you myself. You can pick up your civilians, and you can walk right back out. 5 gold a head. And you have a deal. No blood needs to be shed here. I'll deal with Snigbat myself. Don't worry about it. And Snigbat kind of chimes in. Don't believe his lies. They shut her up. And so Baguette Darkmoon, the high elf fighter, who's very haughty, as you'd expect from a name like Baguette Darkmoon, says, well, Boss Hark, I've got something even better than gold here. And kind of brings his pouch up from his side. If you take a look, something very valuable in here. And he goes, what is it? No, I think you take a look for yourself. I think you should tell me. No, you should take a look for yourself. No, I'm not falling for that trap. And so Boss Hark sends one of his bodyguards forward. Says, you take a look over there. So the bodyguard begrudgingly walks up to Baguette's little sack and sort of peers forward, and Baguette stabs him with his rapier. And at this point, I don't have anyone roll initiative. Ow! The goblin jumps back, bleeding now. What a jerk. And Boss Hark pulls out his hand crossbow and goes, okay, last chance. I'm not falling for your bullcrap. Pay me or we're going to kill you. And Baguette goes, no, you don't understand. Only you can see this. I'm not showing anyone else. Boss Hark's like, I'm just no. And okay, combat begins. Because clearly they're not willing to barter. Boss Hark was willing to be reasonable. Baguette would rather kill everyone. So combat begins. Vol tries to find some rocks to the side to jump up onto because he wants to perch in every possible combat ever. He's a bird, apparently. Most of the rest of the team jumps forward. The pack of rats gets shot with an ice knife as Endry, now that he is level 3, has 1 extra spell slot available, so ice knifes some noobs. Brother Olahan runs up. At this point, he is a Way of the Drunken Order, whatever, monk, and so he can like disengage for free, so he runs in, punches a couple of times, jumps back out. Boss Hark has his bodyguards here, and because he's the goblin boss, anytime he gets hit, can use his reaction to like make his bodyguard take the strike and dip back and then kind of walk back into frame. So Boss Hark takes a while to die. The rats are actually very, very frail, but Modella, being the little plucky gnome that she is, now she is ranged, she's very squishy. She is a rogue and has a little hand crossbow that she had crafted herself as the goblin, or as the gnome tinkerer she is. But decided that no, she wants to jump forward and gets up to everyone, and she wants to tame some of the rats. She already had gotten herself a pet chicken that she saw kind of frolicking around back in town. She's a pet chicken in her sack, but has a bunch of like trash and like rotten apple cores and bits of tin foil and everything else, or whatever the old equivalent of tin foil is. Iron foil? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Either way, she has a bunch of like, bits of food and scraps of garbage and whatnot, and tries to say, hey, rat, I wanna be your friend. And so she tries to animal handling one of the rats. I don't remember if she succeeded. We'll say she succeeds in taming one of the rats. The other 6 had just been shot with an ice knife and are not happy, and they go and attack her. Modella very nearly goes down in the first round of combat. Brother Olahan takes quite a bit of damage as well. The giant paladin Groklo comes in, does some slashing and whatnot. Ultimately, they manage to kill everyone. No one dies. Everyone comes out alive. But Groklo Machno, basically... he says he's chaotic good. He's really just aggressive. He's more like aggressive neutral, but he calls himself chaotic good. He's aggressive neutral. He helps, and they kill everyone. So the goblin boss is dead. Boss Hark is gone. His rats are gone. Modella's kind of sad she couldn't tame one of the rats, but she didn't tame a rat in mid-combat. It's difficult. And they kind of regroup and collect themselves. They're a bit injured, and Groklo Machno, aggressive neutral paladin that he is, with his lay on hands. The way he pantomimes lay on hands is just chest thumps, and that's lay on hands for him. He has never healed anyone but himself. It is always lay on hands. That is every bit of healing he has ever delivered. No matter who is injured, no matter how close to death, no matter how injured he is, he chest thumps back to full health after every combat. So Groklo Machno's got full HP. Modella is scraping by with not very much durability left on her. Most of the rest of the party is okay. But thankfully, they should be safe. They now have a new boss, and she's on their side. And so they loot the room, as it were. There is a very frail townsperson over there in this sort of back room that they managed to pick up. She's okay. Is going to live. Very shook. Was one of the handmaidens of Lady Nandar, but is overall, a functioning adult and can stand and can walk back on her own. And so they take any of the NPCs they don't need and back the way they came, up the rope, not hard to climb again. Functioning adult can climb a rope. It's okay. There's like even handholds in the rock. It's like rock climbing with a rope to hold on to. Like, it's not hard. If you're an able-bodied adult, you're okay. Now, not all the party, as far as players, made it for that session, and so some of their characters were simply standing watch over the chimney entrance at the sort of ceiling of the cavern. And so everyone's mounts and Jesus, the cleric of death, were standing guard, collects the commoners. They're going to be okay. They'll wait for everyone else to come out, but seemingly everything's okay. So that's just fine. The 6 of them keep moving on. They also discover that there is a bit of loot actually around here that Snigbat had sadly let slip. She's not very good at keeping secrets. Had let slip that there's actually a loot room down here, protected by a sort of a big rock. Now, keep in mind, we are in a cavern under the earth. It is dark. It is pitch black everywhere. There's no torches. There's no unnatural or natural light. It's just a fairly small cavern system with a chimney. So there's some air access, right? There's the river to the west, and there's the path out to the east. Like, there's airflow a little bit, but there's no light at all. And thankfully, the only true human of the group is Jesus, who's sitting upstairs, fitting, I guess, and the guards, who also can't see really very well, and they're just going to kind of conga line onto people and try to stay alive. Now, Endry presents as human. He's technically Aasimar, and technically a fallen Aasimar. Now, Aasimar are basically, they're essentially humans, but somewhere down in their bloodline, there is some crossbreeding or whatever with celestial blood, and this pops up once in a great while. The way it's written is like, you can be Aasimar and search for another Aasimar all your life and never find one. They are exceptionally rare, and they don't present publicly very obviously. So he looks and senses to be human to pretty much everyone who's not incredibly astute and knows much more about the world, which is not these adventurers. So technically, Endry has dark vision because he's Aasimar, but no one knows that. And so they're lights out, and he basically follows, I think it's Baguette or someone else, to go loot this larder or this treasure room down to the southwest over here. They come across, they see a cot, they see a chest, they open the chest, there's thieves' tools there. That's good, that's useful for Modella. Now she can pick locks, that's nice. And They don't find a ton of value, but, you know, little bits of scraps of gold and whatnot, little bits of stuff picked over. They also found, by the way, up here in this back room where Boss Hark was, they find roughly 8 to 10 overall sets of combat equipment, shields, spears, swords, that kind of thing. And they go, okay. So putting 2 and 2 together, the guards got disarmed, and that's where the weaponry is being held. And so the adventurers decide, okay, we're going to carry that with us. Across 6 of them, plus the 2 guards. Yeah, you can carry all the gear. It's fine. You can make your way across. But now it's time to make your way across the central cavern where all the ogres and all the other goblins are and rescue the civilians. And so they make their way back across with Snigbat in tow, continually called the wrong name by Vol. And they make their way to the central room. And Snigbat goes, okay, follow my lead, okay? Follow my lead. While they were looting the room, by the way, they see her just hacking away at Boss Hark's head with a scimitar and cuts off the dude's head. She's got the head of her old boss still dripping from the neck wound in her hand, and she walks over to the central cavern, leads the way, and goes... It's basically like the scene from Pulp Fiction where the elderly woman goes like, listen, everybody, this is a hold up. And I can't do that voice very well, but says, listen, everybody, I'm the boss now, and all of these chuckleheads behind me are under my spell. I charmed a whole bunch of adventurers. I killed Boss Hark. This is my cave, and you goblins are all mine now. And the adventurers, yep, we're under a spell. Ooh, hail Snigbat. You know, sort of just, that's roughly how they delivered it. It was great. So they make their way to the central cavern. The other goblins go, well, yeah, okay, sure. I'm pretty sure I rolled persuasion for Snigbat, but it rolled really well. So they're like, yep, cool, yep, we're yours. And then she goes, kind of reiterates, like, and those ogres, and there's 2 very, very large ogres sitting kind of near the central, in the middle of the cavern, taking a mud bath, basically. Giant, 13-foot tall, giant clubs, pretty angry looking. He says, listen, I know you had a deal with Boss Hark, but you don't have a deal with me. You've got to get out and get lost, ogres. And the ogres look around and realize, well, there's 2 of us, and well, those are all goblins, and those are adventurers. Well, I guess we got to find a new home. And the ogres, sad, dejected, clubs on their backs, walk out the main entrance, never to be seen again. And goodbye, ogres. They've been removed of their home. Unlucky. But, oh well. When the ogres are gone, the goblins are in Snigbat's control. Snigbat had to deal with the adventurers, and they go, okay. Civilians are up this way to the northeast. Go have fun. And so the whole party more or less conga lines to the northeast, and they make their way over here. And they notice, as they make their way in, there's increasingly frequent droppings of bat guano. That, again, in dark vision, it's all black and white. None of them turn the lights on. They still don't turn the lights on. They just all rely on dark vision, see 60 feet in front of them at a time. You go, okay, well, that's bat guano. Yep. So, okay, well, could I slip? I mean, potentially, just be careful. Okay. They walk forward, and they see a cave-in or a hole or something in the middle of this room. The rest of the walls, they spend some time to investigate. There's stalagmites and stalactites and whatnot, but it's just a room in a cave, basically. It's nothing too special, but there's a cavern, a sort of cave-in in the middle. And so one of them walks sort of slowly forward. Maybe one did light a torch, I forget. I think one did. I think actually one finally did light a torch for this. They walk forward, and they peer down into the cavern. And they just see a face looking up. Just don't make any noise. Just don't talk. Just be quiet. Because not that the adventurers can see it, and there is no torch. So I guess I just ruled that the townspeople... Well, no, okay, sorry. So no torch was lit. It's all dark, but not all the townspeople are human. So the ones who had dark vision are the ones maybe sitting, close to the entrance. There's like a halfling or someone who can see up there, or a gnome. I don't know, someone who has dark vision. Who cares? I forget if halflings have dark vision. It doesn't really matter. I think they don't. Who cares? Either way, we're going to move on because this is not important. Someone with dark vision who lives in the town, does the whole motion, and okay, great. And so, and I tell the players, hey, players, I want you guys to realize, I'm going to rule all of you as being in character. If you yell, your characters yell. If you whisper, your characters whisper. This I'm going to do once in a while for people anytime they're in sort of a, not initiative, but a real-time scenario that I find very effective is, okay, you guys are in a thing. Anything you guys say, you're saying. Because if you're trying to have a conversation, like in earshot of people, they're hearing your conversation. If you want to go over and whisper to someone, you can do that, but like you have to make that effort. And then it's going to be obvious that you're whispering to someone. So I'm like, hey, you guys are in real time right now. Just FYI. I find that to be very effective, by the way, for storytelling and for getting people to act well in character when it's important. Lying around town, not a big deal, obviously. Okay, so, okay, well, you know, give me some rope, whatever. Rope's like 50 feet tall or long, but the cave-in's only maybe 30, 40 feet down, so they start getting the villagers out. And there's a good, like, 30 of them. There's like 30 villagers to rescue, and they all very quietly, very carefully climb the rope. No one's in a huge rush. They're all very aware that this cavern is filled with bats. Filled with bats. And the way the adventure is written, if you wake the bats, you take damage every turn you're anywhere near them as they flutter around. Lots of scratching claws and little beaks and whatnot. And so everyone's very, very quiet. They're all aware that they're stuck in a place with bats, which is why the villagers can't scream out, because they would just get mauled by bats, essentially. 6 remaining guards are with them. They're a bit injured, but not terribly worse for the wear. And they all can climb their way out, and they get the villagers, and they go, okay, well, let's walk back. And so as they make this progression, and the conga line comes down, Baguette decides it's time to roleplay. And he finds Snigbat. And in his, very haughty, sort of mildly British accent, because that's the generic, if you're American, how you sound well-to-do with a British accent, which is, again, not a British accent, but just getting 10% of the way there. He goes, Snigbat, I must inform you that I would, and he comes with a calligraphy set, because of course he does, I want to make sure that you feel properly cared for, and that no one stakes bad claim to your land. And so I have written up, and he writes in common, a contract that says, yes, you have rights to own this land. This is your cave. Snigbat, this is yours. House Darkmoon recognize you as the purveyor and the owner of this here dripping cave, and this is for you. And it's all written with calligraphy and whatnot, and he uses a bunch of parchment and says, Snigbat, I royally decree that this is yours. Sure, okay. Snigbat does not care, takes it, puts it in her back pocket, whatever, doesn't matter. But she has official recognition now from House Darkmoon. This is her cave. And the conga line starts going forward, and the villagers are brought out of the town, out of the cave. Out into the sunlight. It's mid-afternoon. They're doing okay for themselves. And then the party decides to split. So a few people head to the southwest, and 2 head to the southeast. Now, mind you, they were informed earlier that they don't go to Ravenholm. They don't go to the southeast anymore. I'll quickly cover the southwest. As they make it to the daylight, House Darkmoon is over here telling Snigbat she can have control of the land. They get their, congregation of villagers out to the front. And a few people head to the southwest. And what they discover, and I believe even Grocklo's part of this. He's the hyper-aggressive, very, not evil, just very aggressive, chaotic good paladin, makes his way to the southwest and sees lots of infant and children and otherwise non-combatant goblins. All the non-warriors live in the parts of the caves to the southwest. And that's where they sleep and eat and just wait around, hoping that they can get more scraps of food from scavenging. Thankfully, no one in the party is enough of a murder hobo to kill dozens of unarmed goblins. It would have gone badly for them if they did, I assume, although they probably still would have won the fight, but they would have killed everyone, all the defenders in the main cavern. And they walk away going, okay, these are non-combatants. We're fine. We're not going to kill everybody. And I was like, whew, that could have gone worse. They're not evil. They're not evil. They didn't kill unarmed goblins. So proud of my adventurers. But they did split the party. And again, they were told, we don't go to the southeast anymore. Well, Vol and Endry, by themselves, head to the southeast. Vol is a ranger, Endry is a sorcerer. Now, mind you, this is after a few rounds of combat. They have not long rested since the beginning of the day. They fought the Zentarim, they fought the Orcs, they fought the boss. Boss Hark over here. They are a bit low on resources. Well, they make their way over, across the bend, and down they go. And they come across a very, very large stalagmite. 10 feet tall, 8 feet around, with interestingly, sort of like evenly spaced, very smooth holes poked in it. Like imagine a sponge, but made of rock. That's interesting. And at the base, now, again, lights are still out. So Endry has dark vision, pretends he doesn't, and just kind of holds on to Val's shoulder. Val sees this in his dark vision and goes, okay. And they also see 2 skeletons at the base of this stalagmite. And their weapons are corroded. There's like a metal shield and a couple of metal scimitars. And they are damaged, corroded. You can tell this. It's not too hard to tell. It's kind of obvious. And you go, wow. That's tricky. Let's keep going. And they know there's like this path out into the darkness to the east. They loop around and go to the south. And they go to the south, and they go to the south, and they go here. And they see some mushrooms lining the walls. And they see a pool of water to the south. So Endry takes a dagger, cuts a couple of mushrooms, takes them, puts them in a sack. He's got a couple of mushrooms. Doesn't take time to identify them, but just has them. Fair enough. And they go to turn around. And as they make their way around the bend, it is blocked. It is blocked by a black pudding. Now, for those of you who know what black puddings are in D&D, they are much too powerful for these two to fight. And they are cut off. This narrows too much to be swum through. That was deduced already. Black puddings are naturally quite large. They're like 10-foot by 10-foot blocks of jello. But they can splurch and grow and squeeze into any size they want. It has completely filled the cavern. It's translucent. You can see through it a little bit, but it has completely blocked everything you could possibly see, or anywhere you could possibly go. And they're trapped, and no one's near them. And so the first thing Endry does is just scream and yell at the top of his lungs and hope and pray someone can hear him. And he will also take an action and cast Dancing Lights. And I decided, sure, go for it. Maybe the rules don't say he can, but he basically just like jettisons these dancing lights out of his hand, tries to arc them around the cavern, and make their way out here. Now, as far as the distance is concerned, dancing lights can go 120 feet. As far as bouncing off walls, I don't know. But at this point, I said, you know what? Sure. You know what? Go for it. If I wanted to, absolutely their characters could have been killed here. But I decided, sure. Dancing lights. Why not? Now, the distance I'm drawing here is not quite to scale. There is a little bit of distance to play with. But basically, a black pudding can only move 20 feet at a time. Most adventurers can move 30 or more in a given turn. And so until you're out of space to walk, you can run away from it. And so they're able to kind of trivially keep their distance for a while. And as they make this yell, I have everyone roll initiative, and I say, just keep people active in the game. because it's hard to always keep track of like how long does it take to write calligraphy, how long did it take for you to talk to like and investigate these unarmed goblins, at which point exactly you choose to investigate to the right hand side, how long did it take for you to look at these corpses and see that their weapons are corroded. Like, I just like to hand wave and say, look, you guys are roughly all around at the same time. So the party, if they want to be, is within earshot around here and within vision range of the dancing lights flying down the cavern. And if they want, they can be about here. And the way I drawn out the cavern, the way that I drew it in person in the session was, of course, going to be the distances that we are going to actually apply. And so they hear this yell from Endry, and they all take the dash action, and they run, and they get to about here. And this gives them vision that there is a black pudding right here. They all rolled initiative, and they got basically better initiative than the black pudding, so they got to get here in time. Okay, they all use the dash action, they go, and combat begins. And so Vol goes in, takes his longbow, makes a shot, and hits it, deals some damage. And I tell them, and you also hear this sizzle and crack as this arrow gets into the pudding. You sense you've dealt some damage here because hand waviness, but you hear the sizzle and crack like the arrow's being broken down inside. And they go, that's dangerous. And Endry goes, okay, well, I'm going to ice knife, and sends out his ice knife. And the ice knife deals piercing damage going in, make an attack roll, deals some damage there, and then ice knife explodes into a shatter of basically icy daggers that, you know, explode out, and that's how it's an AoE spell. Well, I tell him, you shoot out your knife, the knife goes in, deals some damage, and then you sense what would have been the pop of the ice knife, and it doesn't have the same impact you expect. Essentially, Black Pudding is immune to cold damage. You dealt the piercing, but you don't deal cold damage. Now keep in mind, this is a silver dragon, draconic bloodline sorcerer. That's cold. He's themed himself very heavily to cold magic. The only way he can deal damage is basically cold damage. I mean, or he can like stab with a dagger, but he's bad at that. So he goes, I don't have any tools left. This is bad. But the rest of the party comes down, and I think Brother Olahan was able to use, because he's a monk, he was able to use Step of the Wind instead of using an action to dash, and he gets to make his way all the way over, and is able to throw a dart. And he throws the dart as well. It strikes the Black Pudding, deals some damage, and again, he hears this sizzle and pop as the dart corrodes inside this gigantic vat of ooze and acid. And so everyone who's in earshot now, the 4 or 5 of them, I think Groklo's also in earshot and kind of aware of this. They're like, ooh, okay, they all hear the sizzle and pop. They're all kind of aware that like this thing definitely breaks down gear and those corroded weapons and whatnot. That was the pudding's doing. And the pudding is able to walk up as Endry and Vol are kind of caught there as initiative order goes around. And the rest of the party is around here, the 3 or 4 of them. This is roughly how many we had. The ooze comes in and takes a big slap towards Val. Now, thankfully, Gelatinous Ooze only hits once per turn. Hits like a freaking truck when it does. If it rolled max damage, it could have one-shot any single player in the party, but it misses. Val's able to sneak by. He's all right. Able to walk out of this one. Okay. As everyone takes their attacks, whatnot, I roll a d4 again, basically, and I say, okay, which one is the ooze going for? And the next turn, the ooze turns around and goes up this way and makes an attack towards Baguette. Slap. Goes for an attack there. Doesn't make that one either. The ooze got 2 attacks off in this combat and couldn't quite land onto either character that it attacked. Would have been very damaging if it did, of course. But, or no, it hit Groklo, but Groklo was able to like block it with the shield. That was who it went for. At this point, a couple things had happened. Earlier in the session, earlier in the day, Brother Olahan had asked, you know, hey, I've been around. I've fought a lot of creatures. He's a drunken tavern brawler by trade up until he became a monk. Like, I fought a lot of creatures. How dangerous are ogres? Like, would my character know how dangerous are ogres? And what I rule is, if your character would definitely know, your character definitely knows. If they're a bit more special, and I think ogres are not typically seen in taverns, I think you would have had a bit more of a sheltered life. I say, okay, well, roll history. And he gets like a 7 for history. And he goes, okay, look, you know ogres are big. Like, you've heard stories of ogres. They're big and mean and good fighters. They're not the boogeyman. They're just big and mean and scary, is roughly how I deliver it, which is like, okay, could be fought, maybe a bit hard, but not impossible. Well, here, seeing the black pudding, Baguette asks, and Baguette's 70 years old in character, is an elf. He's been around for a while. And he goes, okay, well, I want to roll history. Can I tell how important, how scary a black pudding is? Nat 20. And I go, oh, yeah. No, you've maybe not come across it once yourself, but you're actually rather familiar with black pudding somehow. These things are really, really scary to adventurers. This is threatening. This is threatening. Also, you're not sure why exactly, but you've been told that slashing damage and lightning damage are really not good ideas here. And he finds this out right before Gracla Magno's turn. Gracla Magno, aimed with a longsword, can only deal slashing damage. If he were to slash the black pudding and hit, he would cut it into 2. It would put half the health pool into each one, but they would each deal full damage, which would be really likely to kill the party off. And so hearing this, as Baguette sort of relays all the information, goes, we don't want to do this. And I go, okay, fair point. Now, the way this map was actually drawn for me in person for the adventurers, the black pudding ended up being right around here. Enough that he is touching this pass and touching this pass. And so everyone decides, okay, it's time to run. And as it's kind of blocking most of the way north, Endry runs up, and he has like a single second level spell slot left over. Runs up, and he says, okay, well, I'm going to run up here, and then Misty Step, and just run down the cave. Just run down that passageway. I don't know what's there. Yes, I have dark vision. I can't see any sunlight yet, but I'm just going to book it down that way because this is my best shot out. He starts booking it off to the east, and out he goes. Vol shot a couple more arrows. Didn't get it very low. Goes, you know what? That makes sense. He's going to run that way too. Finds a way to disengage. Gets out. And the other 3 party members go, yeah, you know what? You're right. We should probably leave as well. We run faster. It's easy to disengage and run. And the black pudding can never catch us. So back out they go. And the party managed to survive an encounter with the black pudding. They managed to run away. The black pudding slinks back to its hidey hole. The goblins already know not to go down there. And everyone just runs, and makes their way out of the cave. They are done with this. Eventually, Endry, and I think Val as well, make their way out the cave to the east. They finally find sunlight as well. And they go, okay, we made it. We're safe. We are not dead. That is absolutely great. And they make their way back to Nightstone. 30 some odd extra civilians in tow, a few guards. They make their way back over to Nightstone. It's getting to be a bit later in the day, late afternoon to early evening. And that's where we're going to end today's recap of the session. They managed to save what they could of the town. A few had been killed, either eaten by the goblins. Several had been killed, crushed by rocks from the cloud giant assault from earlier. They've made it back to town, and as far as they can tell, any of the immediate threats have finally been dealt with around the town of Nightstone. They all reach level 4, and they'll be level 4 next session. And they are finally able, for the first time, to get some rest without any pressing dangers. And we'll pick up what they do next. We'll pick up what they do next time. Thanks for watching.